Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Motor Trade Radio podcast, brought to you in association with eBay Motors Group. It is Saturday the 13th of November and you're joined by myself, Philip Nothard.
And me, Curtis Hutchinson. This is episode 59, season 7 of Motor Trade Radio, bringing you all the chatter that matters. This week we're going to take a break from the hurly-burly of the headlines to bring you a special on mental health and well-being, with a chat with our good friend and regular contributor, Steve Whitten, founder of Menable. Welcome to the show, Steve, and happy first anniversary to you and the team.
Oh, thanks, Curtis. Thanks, Phil. That's absolutely brilliant, and thanks for doing this and giving us a platform to continue raising awareness. It's amazing. Love what you guys do.
Not a problem at all, and you know, kind of alluded to something on Saturday of last week, and sort of told Curtis about it after we'd sort of announced it. But you know, as you say there, I mean, you know, it's the first anniversary of Menable, and what a fantastic movement that has been since you launched it. And I think really, just for the listeners, you know, I mean, where's a year gone already? I mean, it must be a blur for you now with the speed in which this first 12 months has gone. But do you want to sort of talk through with the listeners and give them a bit of sort of context as to, you know, what has happened in that 12 months? I mean, we'll pick on a few key points after, but you know, in terms of what has happened, the size of the movement over that 12 months period.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've actually got this on a slide, and it says that we've gone from garden to global. And what I mean by that is that literally, you know, I can remember 15, 16 months ago sitting in my garden, head in my hands, you know, crying my eyes out because the world was crumbling around me in many aspects. And, you know, I've not held back in talking about that. You know, and the situation for me was horrendous. And for the rest of my family as well. And the whole thing was just horrible. And in reaching out and using, you know, the platform that for me has always been a sort of support mechanism, which is LinkedIn, and putting some videos and posts and things out there, and then getting feedback and people coming back to me saying, wow, this is really resonating. And, you know, I've got problems too, and I've got this going on. I've got that going on. You know, we really then started to open up conversations and support each other. And when we created the concept of Menable, the intention was for us to perhaps go around the country and start up little support groups in busy automotive dealerships and businesses. And it became very clear very quickly that there were people of a like mind who had also struggled and suffered in one way or another. And they came forward and said, look, we want to be involved. So we created the concept of an ambassador. And yeah, as you say, in a year, we're now at 34 ambassadors across 4 countries. And I mean, that bit itself just, you know, is mind blowing for me. I think, wow. I mean, I know I'm well connected and across LinkedIn and people that have reached out, but they've bought into the cause, and they've bought into the story and the mission and what we're about. And want to be involved. And then earlier this year, we put that together into a social enterprise. I've got to say a shout out to Julia Muir as well from the 30% Club, because, you know, she didn't know about it at the time, but she kind of mentored me into how that could look. And we followed a very similar pattern to them. And then went out and started talking to leaders across the industry, and probably the biggest shout out in that respect has got to be to Dash Gupta and to Steve Nash, who, when I said to them, look, can I pick your brains and you know, just show you what we're about and just bounce something off you, both of them without hesitation said, yeah, we want to be involved, you know, sign us up as platinum members and can we become patrons?
And you mentioned, you know, in terms of that global coverage, I mean, you've got ambassadors in some significant countries, haven't you?
We have, yeah. I mean, I was lucky enough to go to NADA at the beginning of 2020, you know, just before the pandemic hit, in Las Vegas, and we met up with some fantastic people over there. and one of which was a guy called Russ Mann. And we connected, and all through what was going on for me, him and me had some great sort of FaceTime conversations, and it became fairly evident that he too has had some challenges and issues in his life. And so when we created Menable, he actually was probably one of the first to come to me and say, look, we want to be involved in this, and I think there's the opportunity for this in the US is huge. So he became probably our second or third ambassador, I think. And you're right. So now we're up to 3 in the US, 2 in Canada, and 1 in Australia as well. Which, even as I say that now, I'm pinching myself, going, really?
And following on from that, Steve, can we talk about the role of the ambassadors and patrons, and also because last weekend we covered that Richard Sawyer has become your latest ambassador, and he's a body shop manager, and we said on the show that it was great that you've actually attracted someone from part of the sector that perhaps wasn't involved before. So what is the actual role of ambassadors and patrons?
Well, first and foremost, for the ambassador, we've never actually created a job description or anything like that. What we've done is said, look, if you're interested in the movement, if it's important to you, most importantly, if you've got lived experience, and that could be you or somebody close to you, so you kind of get what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve, then by all means throw your hat in the ring and be a part of what we're trying to do. Put your name to it, and spread the word. And that's really what the role of the ambassador is to spread the word. And as we grow this and we get deeper into the industry, then I'm sure that their bigger role will evolve. But yeah, you mentioned Richard. He came on board last week, and he's immediately started to ping me some ideas about a fundraiser that he wants to do next year, which is amazing. And yeah. I've got other ambassadors who will constantly contact me and say, well, what about this, what about that, should we how about this has come up, and they are kind of driving the movement sort of within the businesses they work for, or if they're independents, then they're advising and helping and direct what we're actually doing.
And you've actually got some big names as your patrons. You've mentioned Dash Gupta and Steve Nash, but you've who else have you got there?
Yeah, well, we had some real big early adopters. So in addition, we've got Peter Vardy, we've got Chris Wiseman at Essex Garages, I should say, and Adam Turner at Chorley Group, and also Stacey Turner at CG Professional. Yeah. So these ladies and gents came on board and immediately could see that there's a need to promote the awareness of what we're trying to do across the industry. And it's not an overnight fix. That's the key thing that we say to all of them is, don't expect that we're not going to come in and run a training course. That's not what we're about. And we're not going to come in and plug something in and suddenly everything's changed. This is about a commitment to raising the awareness of this as an issue and working with us probably over 3 to 5 years to embed new working practices and cultures. And that's why we're absolutely delighted that those that have come on board early are those that I've named.
And you mentioned there that it's not about training, but I know that you've been doing quite a bit of work right across some of your ambassadors and the businesses that they represent themselves. And I think the more recent one that I saw was that you were doing something with Essex Garages with Chris for their management team or their colleagues across the business. What was that then you were getting involved with there? Because obviously I'm presuming it was to do with obviously mental health and helping their managers understand it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The first thing I should say is that we don't do mental health first aid training. We don't do sort of mental health awareness related stuff. What we're doing is, on that particular occasion, was a couple of workshops where we went in and just really introduced the concept of Menable and really started challenging the teams around, okay, what's going on in your culture? What's going on in your working practice? Now, you mentioned that Richard heard about Menable through your podcast. Well, Chris heard about it through another podcast that I was on. And he always says, and he introduced me on the day as, the person that made him sit up and think about the question that had come up, that, if you start looking after people's well-being, they'll start swinging the lead. And my reaction to that is, well, what kind of culture do you have in your business if you think that's the case? And that really resonated with Chris. And so as a result, he wanted me to go in and run a workshop to really kind of raise that point with his managers, and get that across that Wessex is not that kind of business. And whilst, like everyone else, they may have their challenges and issues, it is important that the way out of that is to realise that it's about understanding people's well-being. So that's what that workshop was about, was really just raising their awareness of the culture and working practice element to it.
And is that a template you could use elsewhere, do you think, Steve?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, it totally is. Yeah, I mean, and in fact, we're talking to a couple of our patrons as well about then taking that into a management development program. Under one of the things that we now have within the Menable family is what we're calling the Menable Academy. Because having come from training and development, what I've realised is that there's a mental health angle to every single thing that we do. Every piece of non-technical soft skills type training about communication or sales, management, prospecting, leadership, time management, whatever it is, all of these things have a mental health angle. And, for example, again, similarly with Wessex, they were very, very open about the cost of recruitment, for example, and what that's costing their business. So we've said to them, right, well, let's look at that angle from a management development point of view, because quite clearly, if we address the potential confidence and self-esteem issues that managers have, excuse me, then they'll potentially, recruit in a better way, and that will also then address perhaps diversity and inclusion, because they won't be recruiting from a position of being reactive and needing people in place quickly. So it opens up all sorts of, I wasn't going to say can of worms, that sounds negative, but it certainly opens up lots of opportunities for us to look at things in a very, very different way. So absolutely is a template that could be taken and done anywhere. Yeah.
You're listening to All the Chatter That Matters on Motor Trade Radio, brought to you in association with eBay Motors Group. And Steve, I must ask you about the hat. So Phil and I have been following
hesitantly about the hat.
Your updates on LinkedIn, and for any listeners who haven't seen them, you're going out and about, and you've got this very colourful woolly hat. But both Phil and I missed the backstory. So what's that all about?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me about this. Right. Okay.
And be careful on this one as well.
Yeah, right? No, I know. Yeah. Some of my followers, if you want to call them that, will know exactly what the backstory is. When everything kicked off for me, again, one of my kind of coping mechanisms is to make little videos and to put posts and things out there, and I decided to vlog my thoughts and feelings in a vlog, and do that whilst I was walking, and it just happened to be winter. And I've got this, as you say, sort of rather colourful rainbow knitted woolly hat, which when I bought it, a few people said to me that I look as like they used a derogatory word to describe what I looked like.
Yes.
In this, and it's a word that rhymes with hat.
Yeah.
A something in a hat, and it's a fairly well used word across the world now, and the industry in particular. And so my first thing was that I gave this vlog the title of the something in a hat, and it took off. Actually, I used to get lots of people say, "Oh, it's brilliant," and so on. But then I got one or two other people who went, "You might want to tone that down a little bit, because it, do you know what the connotation of that word actually is?" And I said, "Well, yeah, of course I do." But then I thought about it, and at first I thought, I don't want to have my wings clipped, but then I thought, well, no, actually, yeah, they're right. Yeah. So I did tone it. I have toned it down a little bit, but the inference is still there. And if I'm honest, I think one of the things that bothered me about sort of not using that word was actually the word was aimed at me. It was I've always been very good at self-deprecation. And it was really just to say, look, I don't take myself that seriously. I know some people do vlogs and, they want to try and create that they're a bit of a guru, and I'm not. I just talk about what comes into my mind, and most of that comes from the heart. And it just so happened that if I'm on a walk on a winter's day, I'll be wearing a colourful hat. So
so we can expect to see more of the hat over the coming weeks.
Well, you can now.
Yeah.
We've just brought the hat. We've just resurrected the rainbow hat by the sounds of it.
Well, yeah. In fact, I've just bought a scarf. It doesn't quite match it because it's not stripes. It's sort of squares, but it's still brightly coloured. So that will make an appearance as well. But yeah. So the inference of the person who doesn't take himself too seriously, who may be described in a certain way, in a hat.
And now we've got one with in a scarf as well to think about and what that connection may be. But yes.
And I recently moved to a flat. So the last vlog that I did, I think I called it the hat in a flat. So.
Have you got a cat as well, Steve?
No, I can't do cats. I'm sorry. I'm a dog person.
You're a dog person.
Yeah, I like loyalty and respect. I don't get any of that from a cat.
So
That's just alienated half the audience.
Yeah. So moving away from cats and dogs and hats and scarves, you've been doing quite a bit in terms of, I think we've seen little snippets and there's an event that's coming up in December, I think, if my memory serves me well, around HR. I think you're getting involved with a HR initiative. Do you want to just share what that's all about?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a little bit of a backstory with that as well. When I was at Essex a few weeks ago, Sonia is the HR manager there. She's amazing, and she's come from outside of the industry. And as anyone knows who's done that, it's a tough transition. And we had a very open conversation with Chris actually, and we talked that as much as HR people, especially when they're working on their own, when you're in a smaller group and you are there on your own, maybe with a bit of admin support. We can talk all day about HR people needing to be in a strategic role that advises the board. The reality of a busy automotive business is that you're going to get sucked into hiring and firing pretty much most days, and you're going to be fielding phone calls and emails saying, this relationship's gone sour. Can you help me? And by the way, I'm a salesperson down and I need someone in the seat by tomorrow. And all of that is fairly regular. And when I was talking openly about that with Sonia and then with Gillian at Chorley Group, and she was saying exactly the same. And so between us, we got together on a Zoom and we went, there must be loads of HR people out there in the industry that aren't necessarily part of a bigger group team where there's the support infrastructure. So let's create one. And through Menable, we've got the perfect forum and platform for doing that. And so on the 6th of December, 11 o'clock, we're holding our very first HR roundtable. And it's open to anyone. It's not open just to Menable members, although obviously we'd love to have a conversation a bit further about that. But it's open to anyone. If you're in HR and you're in the automotive industry, and the key question for us is what does well-being look like in the automotive sector, and what does well-being of HR professionals look like? Because it's very easy for us to think about salespeople or technicians or service advisors or managers. But we thought, no, actually the HR people are unsung heroes and need some support as well. So,
and can people attend this? Is it open for general attendance? So if people want, obviously LinkedIn's the go-to for you in many ways. How can people sign up to attend this?
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're going to be posting the the sign up link through Eventbrite. That's going to be going on probably today. During the course of this week. Yeah. That just follow that. But through this, if they go to menable.org, we'll probably put the link on there as well, or they can contact us for the link. If you're in the automotive sector and you've got an HR person and you feel they would benefit from being involved in that, then it's open to anyone.
And whereabouts are you holding it, Steve?
Oh, it's online. It'll be an online for it. Yeah. We'd love to do a face-to-face version, but we're not quite there yet. But we think that will come because we intend to do one of these quarterly. So if I may do a bit of a plug, we're looking for sponsors as well, because that'll help us with that. But yeah, we're aiming to do a face-to-face one probably. I'm guessing we'll probably do one in the spring actually with that. But in the meantime, it'll be online.
So if they just keep an eye out on your social pages, either from yourself or through Menable, then again, if they want to reach out from a sponsorship perspective, then just to get in touch, that they can get the opportunity to sponsor the event. But also if they have, like you say, if they've got a HR colleague that they think that should be that may find it useful, then just to reach out to you and they can attend that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the more the merrier. And the key thing there is, Sarah Sillers, I think most people know Sarah. She's one of our latest ambassadors as well, and she's very kindly agreed to be a guest speaker on the day. So, you're going to, it doesn't get much better than that really, because she's, at a leading edge of the whole kind of well-being and people strategy piece across the sector in the various roles that she's had. So she's going to be joining us. And then it'll be lots of sort of open groups and discussions between HR people and getting them connecting with each other and creating a platform that they can support each other.
And really thinking ahead a little bit now. I mean, we talked about 12 months on from when you initially came up with the idea of what has now become a significant movement, and as you say, not just in the UK, but right as a global perspective. And as you mentioned there, 34 ambassadors and growing, and I know you've got a few other things that you're getting ready to announce. But what are your plans for 2022? I suspect face-to-face is probably one of these big plans, but what are the plans for Menable now as we sort of close in 2021 and think about sort of 2022?
Yeah, well, I mean, the key thing is to grow the membership. We have another significant platinum member coming on board fairly soon. They want to launch it internally before we launch it externally. I'm not afraid of sort of shouting about things when things happen. So they've cottoned onto that and said, "Oh, just hang on, easy, tiger." But they're coming on board fairly soon as well. But outside of that, the biggie that we are in the process of creating is an individual membership. So the thing that we've done very well with this year is the employer membership. But we've also had a number of conversations with groups and companies who have said, yeah, but where does this fit with our employee assistance program? Or we already support this charity or that charity. And of course, that's made it a tad, challenging for them to get their head around fitting us in the same place. And we get that. And all we'd say to that is, well, let's have a conversation because we've got some answers on that. But at the same time, what we want to do is we want to bring the stuff that we've got and the expertise that we've got around us now. We want to bring that to individuals, and we think that's where the Menable movement will definitely grow some fairly, even bigger, significant legs during the course of next year. And that's a sort of a membership for people on the ground, if you like.
And Steve, anyone listening to this podcast today, how can they get involved in Menable as an ambassador, as a patron, or just someone who wants more information and maybe a chat with yourself?
Yeah, well, the key one is through the website menable.org. There's a contact form on there, or through LinkedIn. You may have noticed I'm on that. We always joke about that, don't we?
Occasionally.
Stephen J. Whitton. So they can contact me, connect, and we can join up through that as well. But what I would say as we go forward is a couple of things, really. To be an ambassador, what we're looking for is someone who's got lived experience, someone who's connected to it in some way, be it themselves or other people, and that they are prepared to, get involved and do something fairly proactive. We don't prescribe what that is. That's entirely up to them. But, to actually sort of do something that says, yeah, we're a part of this. And from an employer's perspective, we are looking for more and more individual companies to come on board. And, give a shout out, for example, to RTC, Richard Robinson and the team there. They've come on board as a member recently, and, it's twofold for them. One is it's about supporting their own team and what's going on for them internally. But it's also about recognizing that as a vendor, as a supplier, that they can also influence or support the well-being of their customers, which in their case will be mostly dealers. And they've been great, and we're going to do some stuff with them fairly soon as well around moving that on a little bit. So if there are organisations like that out there that want to get involved, then it could be twofold. If you're a vendor or if you're an employer, it's about supporting your team. But again, what we would say is that the pledge commitment that each of those organisations make is to raise awareness and begin educating their teams, and to make a commitment to examine culture and working practices. This isn't something you just sign up for and then go, oh, well, we're members of that because it's the right thing to do. It is about doing the right thing, if that makes sense.
I mean, just on that note, and I didn't cover it at the start, but the feedback has been fantastic, by the way, Steve. So, hats off. And sorry to bring that hat.
The hat is off.
Woolly hats off.
The woolly hats off to everything you've done, and for your involvement on the Motor Trade Radio podcast. I mean, the feedback of Menable moments that we do have on a regular basis is great. Just that sharing, that little bit of snippet that you share with us on the podcast, that just gets people to listen and think a little bit differently about things. And it's testament with Richard, that he got in contact after listening to you on the podcast as well. But the feedback is fantastic, both from our listeners and from eBay Motors Group as well, the association with the podcast as well. So keep it up, keep up the great work that you're doing for the industry as a whole, but fantastic work.
No, thank you. That really does mean a lot, and it touches me very deeply to hear that, because I'm very open about what's happened to me, and where that's taken me is to turn my attention towards purpose. And I talk about the two roads that you could choose when you're in the dark moment, and one is the road of hope, one is the road of despair. They both get you to the same destination, but the road of despair gets you there a lot quicker. And fortunately, I chose the road of hope. And whilst it's still difficult some days, I look around me, and when I hear things like that, I just think, wow, yeah, we're driven by purpose, and we're driven by wanting to make a change. And it's very easy to be critical of our industry, very quickly. And we've got some challenges, we've got some concerns about what happens in the industry, but equally, we've got amazing people, and they are just fantastic. And what touches me is when people reach out and say back in return, yeah, this has resonated with me, and they start opening up. And vulnerability is the currency of leadership going forward. And I would urge anyone in the industry to start opening up, be honest, be vulnerable, and let's all metaphorically put an arm around each other and say, we've got this. And that's what we're about.
Yeah, absolutely spot on, Steve. And look, many thanks for joining us today. You're a true friend of the show.
Great to catch
you. You're
Love
welcome.
You
both. It is really great.
That's come from a recent blog, that one, I think. That one. I've seen that.
Do you know what? Yeah, we don't use the word love enough, and we're stuck because we've only got one word for love. And if I say love, immediately now everyone goes, "What?" Some sort of weirdo. But no,
I did watch.
Yes, use it more. That's what it's about. It's the power.
Most definitely. But look, good luck to you and the ambassadors and the patrons in spreading the word, and do keep up the good work. Unfortunately, that's all for now. You've been listening to the weekly Motor Trade Radio podcast, brought to you in association with eBay Motors Group. Many thanks for joining us for all the chat that matters. We're back with the headlines again next weekend. Until then, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from them.